All right. How's it going out there, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tuesday, August 5th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm your co-host, Frank Spicer, CEO and co-founder of Metafide. With us, we have Keyboard Yeti, our trusty mod, co-founder Matt Cross, and co-founder Frank Bilella, who is joining us as our special guest. And I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time. So how's it going out there, everybody? Quick recap on the market this morning. Big BTC is at 114, holding steady. Rumors of its demise have been greatly exaggerated, and ETH is sitting there at 36.32. It's basically holding the line, letting us know DeFi innovation is indeed happening, and there's volume on the network. $34 billion worth of volume on the ETH network over the past 24 hours, and it's looking like we're entering a sort of a cycle of where projects are about to get deployed. So no better time to be doing what we're doing here. How's it going out there, Matt? What are you up to?
Doing great today, and happy to see all these new faces joining the Twitter space. Can't appreciate you guys enough. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? What are you up to, Yeti? What's it like in the future this morning?
Oh, the future's cold, actually. It's freezing here for people around the world will probably, be like, yeah, you're a wuss. But, it's like 16 degrees.
16 degrees. Okay.
I don't know how to convert that to your antiquated measurements.
To miles?
But,
how do we do it to miles? It's about 61 degrees in miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody cold.
Yeah, the future.
But yeah, there's a lot of hype in the Discord. A lot of hype in the Discord around the space, which is great.
Yeah, I've noticed the Discord's popping off, which is great. Like the Twitter followers are growing, the Discord's growing, the giraffe chat in the Discord's very giraffe, so I'm a huge fan of that. All I gotta say, little suspect of these people coming in and dropping non-giraffes into the giraffe chat. Like, it's just we got to keep an eye on those people because obviously they're not getting it. But everybody, everybody's doing pretty well. That's a very sacred space to us, and I want to appreciate everybody who has dropped a giraffe or a giraffe reaction in the giraffe chat. We love you for it. So we got Matt there. So FB, as he's affectionately known, Frank Bilella, is joining us today. What's going on with you, Frank? Before we get started and get into it.
Not much, man. Things are going well. Thanks for having me. And I can also say that the Giraffe channel in our Discord channel is probably my favorite spot to hang out at. Been engaged in the Discord for a while now, and that chat and that channel never ceases to amaze me. So if you're out there, keep dropping some of those awesome drafts in that channel.
What's the record, Yeti? Do we know? Like, was it? I've seen 12 giraffe reactions before. Is that the upper limit, or have you seen any more than that?
I don't know about the record for reacts, but we had such a long period where the rule, it was totally unstated that it was just giraffes, and it went on for
who broke that rule?
Someone...
Who broke that rule first, Yeti?
It was I think it was Alex Borpa. He put a zebra in there.
No, well, actually, maybe it was Alex, but I was thinking it might have been Dilly.
Ooh. Maybe
she's a renegade. She's a renegade. Yeah. So big space today. So let's get into it. I want to talk about sort of how and why we founded Metafide, sort of what we're building for, and it just generally the process of getting here, because it hasn't been exactly a straight line. We try to do a bunch of things to help people in the space first before we sort of settle on this path. And who better to help tell that story than FB, who, if everybody doesn't know, and a lot of people listening from the company will maybe just be finding this out for the first time, but FB was employee number one. He was the company's first hire. So back when he was just getting his MBA at the Fuqua School at Duke, right? So you want to take us back to that time, Frank? What was it like when you joined back then? Because it's a little different than it is now.
For sure, for sure. And thanks again for having me. So back then, I had spent about 5 years in technology consulting, and I know you and I had reconnected around that time talking about this brilliant idea that you had to introduce a ratings system to the blockchain community. Something, as we had touched on last week, that would help prevent people from getting rug pulled and helping folks decipher between what quality projects were out there and what projects were a little bit more suspect and that people should be wary of. So when I joined up in June of 2022, wow, time flies. We had taken it from idea to an actual product. I remember you and I was sitting in my apartment in Durham. We're going back and forth testing some initial sketches of what the rating systems would be from AAA all the way down to Z. I remember talking to friends and family and pressure testing what that rating system would look like, what's the most intuitive way to consume, what's quality versus not. And then ultimately, what we had initially done that summer and then into the fall was started circulating some of these rating systems out to our friends and family that had helped us develop the product. And we, Frank, I think it was some of your friends were ultimately using that rating system to start trading on assets, which was not our initial intent, but we were pleasantly surprised to find some initial product market fit there. But it was a scrappy summer. We were able to go from 0 to 1, I would say, and we found an initial traction in that ratings product. And then when we ultimately started having the conversations with our extended network, some folks such as Ed McCormick over at D-Chain Capital, shout out Ed, we started sparking some institutional investor interest. And if you want to talk about that, Frank, I think you'd be the best person to chat on that a little bit more. But
Yeah,
wild
so
summer.
yeah, that was a little crazy because I don't think we were fully expecting people to just be trading on the very near term movements of the ratings.
Right.
That was a little bit surprising. So initially we built sort of as a way for people to protect themselves about which projects they get involved with and where they were going to try to invest their time and money. We noticed that people were actually making trades based on the small movements of the assets, and essentially it was during that time, if people remember, people were saying stuff like, "Well, crypto's going to die. It's basically dead. Everything's a scam." And the ratings for a lot of those, for almost all of them, except for BTC, sometimes ETH, sometimes USDT, and usually USDC, the ratings were usually C or lower. And so it was surprising for us to see people that were paying that close attention to it and then making investment decisions in real time off of those things. And it was clarified when Matt Cross and I got out to Consensus and started talking to some of the people who had been using it or wanted to use it. And they started looking at it from a perspective of integrating it into their hedge funds tech stack. Matt, you want to recap that real quick? Because that was kind of a surprise for us where we were walking around that second day and people like were saying the same things to us. And it kind of dawned on us like, oh no, we got to do something a little bit more real time and different if we're going to help these people because there too much can happen in like a 2 to 3 minute period, right?
Yeah, I think what we discovered through all this is that downside risk could break out in under 5 minutes. You know, at those times we had experienced Terra Luna, we had experienced, the crash of FTT, and we even caught the depegging of USDC 3 hours in advance, and we're the only ones who have done that. And I think what everyone didn't realize is these assets are far less stable and have far less distribution than people imagined. And when you have a few key players who are holding the token with the ability to crash it, if they decide to dump, that contagion breaks on the breaks on the market extremely quickly. And we needed to find a way to kind of protect our users from that downside risk. And so we found all these people wanted to use the API because, they're trading in these markets, holding these various coins, and they really had no clue when to get out. And we could flash those warning signs and exit people before, the rest of the thing came toppling down.
Yeah. So Frank, you were at that Consensus with us, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
That's right. So I'm going to pose this question to both you and Matt. But what was your favorite? And be honest, what was your favorite moment of that whole trip? I'm sure we're thinking about the same thing.
I mean,
It's
I
okay.
don't think
You're
I don't
like,
think
I know you're thinking the non-business answer, and it's okay to share. Like,
my truth is this was the first time where I actually got the opportunity and the pleasure to spend a bunch of time with Matt. So that was my favorite memory of the trip. And here we find ourselves 2-3 years later in the trenches,
it's
still
three.
the
It's
company.
three.
It's three. It's three. That was my biggest takeaway from Consensus was I was super excited to spend some time with Matt. I got to see Matt flourish in his environment in which he does, talking to people, pushing Metafide, explaining to people what the benefits are of what we're building, and really starting to garner up some of that institutional interest that we've now come to see, and we've obviously turned that and formed into a bunch of partnerships with. But curious to understand, Matt, what your favorite
I think I know
memory
what
is.
Matt's going to say, and I'll. Yeah, go ahead, Matt. I don't want to don't put words in your mouth. But what was your favorite memory from that trip?
Well, I'm gonna say first, just getting some barbecue with everybody because you can't help but have some good food and happy memories around everything. But I would say, secondly, I think is how shocked everyone was by how poorly a majority of the assets in the space rated. Everyone thinks so highly of all these tokens and the things that they're holding, and everyone's kind of, I felt like, was talking a lot of BS about their holdings behind the scenes, just propping it up themselves. And we kind of came in, bringing a mirror in front of everyone and showing them the reality of what they're holding and the truth. And I think that was always really shocking for people because we were kind of blowing the horn. Hey, majority of these assets aren't as stable as you guys make them appear. And maybe we need to figure out a better way to build stability in this industry right now.
You guys are just too dialed in and buttoned up. So I'll tell it. So we we it was like the third night that we were there. We went out and met one of our advisors, and then headed up to a house party in the hills outside of Austin. Right. So we get there, and it was a partnership meeting. I won't say who invited us, but it was somebody that's fairly well known in the space. So we get up there, and there's hundreds of people at the top of this hill that's overlooking Austin, and it's like a pool party, and we're walking around. We're there for like 10 minutes, and it gets broken up by the police. And I'm in my 40s, and that's it's the first time in a long time I was at a party that was broken up by the police. And as everybody's leaving, our our advisor was like, you guys want to ride? And so we all pile in, and we're just new in the space, and we're our new product in the space. I've been buying Bitcoin since 2010, but like Matt says, there's a whole bunch of people there who are just bullshit artists. And we get in with one of our advisors, and we knew he was down since day one. So he puts us in the car, and we're driving down the hill because nobody can get out because everybody's like fleeing the police as they're coming down. And there's a very well known person in the space who was known for sort of propping up and pushing rug projects and stuff like that. And he's driving down the way, and he's like, we pull up next to him. This guy's, I don't know, was he worth $1 billion, Matt? Like, I don't know. Like, he was close,
He
right?
wrote a famous book too.
Yeah, he wrote a famous book, and our advisors, like, they know each other, and he's like, "Hey, where you going?" And he's like, "I'm just going down to the bottom of the hill into my car." And he's like, "All right, good luck," and doesn't offer him a ride, and like lets us stay in there. But that was, to me, it was funny because he didn't think much of that guy either, and it was like that moment for me was pretty cool because we were like, "Oh, okay, there's people in the space who care about people doing real things, trying to get real stuff done for the betterment of the community." And we started from that trip being able to pick and choose, okay, who's doing it. But it was kind of funny watching a billionaire have to carry his big ass down the hill, and we got to we got to ride with our guys. So that's something that I'll never forget. Obviously, hanging out with FB and Matt was great, and that was the first trip that we got some validation. So we left there and came back with people who were very interested in the predictive aspects of the API. So one of the components of whether or not something was real or not, we were obviously looking at the volume, the new wallets, the amount of distribution, overlap with other assets, and we were doing it in all these different intervals. And I think we'll probably at some point remix that product and give it away for free to everybody who even holds FIDE tokens. So all you'll have to do probably to get that product is just have FIDE in your wallet. You'll be able to see it. But I digress, right? We left there knowing that people are trading off of the near-term signal. And we knew it wasn't good enough to just not have a way to identify sort of downside risk and near-term sort of black swan events and things that weren't reflected in market book data. So we came back and we thought, okay, how do we get the people signal into what we were doing? Because if you're just predicting off of market data that's already on the books or a bid or an ask, you're not going to see a bunch of stuff that people can kind of suss out and get into that signal or that alpha that's not there present. And so we tried to figure out a bunch of different ways to source that, and obviously asking people through polls. There's not like a roaming band of a bunch of really smart people scouring the internet trying to figure out polls they can fill out, right? So that doesn't make sense. And then we thought, I mean, a little bit of history. Like, I was the co-founder of Social Flow, which is the world's largest publisher of media. It's got customers like, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Associated Press, Al Jazeera, BBC, like every single news org that worth their salt uses Social Flow to figure out what to publish and when. But part of the experience there is we had the Twitter fire hose, and we had a big set of Facebook data, and billions of clicks a month to model. And I realized that sorting things, like filtering things out of the stream to be fed to large language models to classify it, is going to be too latent to make sense for a trade. So by the time somebody puts something on Twitter, it's probably gone through a forum or a Discord or something where there's people jumping you, right? And that it's like a way to get the second set of people in. And sometimes you'll see something that goes up on Twitter, but by then it's almost like a massively coordinated or at least a semi-coordinated set of people putting things out, so that the new people in, the people that are early can jump out. And when they come in, when the early retail gets in, the original people can jump out. And that's the garbage way to run an ecosystem. Like, that's not fair. It's not right. It's not helping things. And it's almost like us fighting for table scraps when we could be eating the steak. And my apologies to any vegans or vegetarians out there. You can imagine it's like a tofu mushroom steak or whatever. But we realized, like, we shouldn't be fighting for table scraps. Like, we're building this. There's a much bigger opportunity here. So how do we turn this into a way that makes sense and gets people rewarded for contributing signal to the system, right? So we then decided to prototype what we were doing, and we went into the Mantle AI Fest. Matt, you want to tell that story? Like, what happens when we go to Mantle?
Yeah, so at the time, Mantle was, getting their chain ready for a big, summer fest where they're incentivizing people to use some of their top applications. And, we had already received a grant from them, so we were working closely with them. And they said, hey, we love your application. Can you guys, get this ready to go out on our mainnet utilizing one of your test tokens? And everybody who plays in the game, we'll drop them some Mantle incentives. And so what we did is we put out our first iteration of FIDE, which was utilizing our 7 different machine learning models to come up with an AI price line. And then people would predict the over or under of that price at the end of a 5-minute interval. And, during that time, I would say it was an all-out smash hit. We, generated probably about, 4 million on-chain transactions at the time, had about over 80,000 wallets interact with it. And some of our top community members got paid out like 5,000 USD from participating in that competition, and then the rest of the people got distributed, several mantle tokens that were worth a pretty penny as well.
Yeah, so they did pretty well for that, and also everybody that met us like that listened, you're going to be able to take those tokens that you still have and won in the Mantle AI Fest that you played through the game, and port them to the eventual destination when we're going to announce it next month. So we're going to get you over there. Everybody's, there's going to be some rules by which to unlock them, but you'll be able. They're yours. You earned them. You want them. We're going to get them to you, and we're going to make sure that we do right by everybody that was there for us. So it's going to turn out well for you. So we just want to say thank you, and all the people that were early supporters. We have a path for you to port them over. We've already planned it into our tokenomics and the models, and going to make sure that you're going to have ways to actually, you're going to have an advantage to play during the beta period when you bring them over. So it's going to work out well for all of our early supporters. So thank you for that. So moving on. So we did really well with that. We generated 4 billion token volume of FIDE, 4 million on-chain transactions, 80,000 wallets played in the game, and like 130,000 wallets held FIDE at one point. So we realized that we're kind of onto something, and we realized that the UI wasn't properly reflective of our capabilities, because we sort of threw it up as a proof of concept, and we're like, okay, we're onto something here. The concept of people playing against the AI line, refining it, was good. Let's do a little bit better for the people in the community. So by this time, FB has moved, and he's now like in the corporate world, kicking ass, taking names, doing what he's got to do. And he's watching it as sort of a very interested external observer, obviously really close to the company. When you're out there, Frank, at what point did you notice that we sort of had figured it out?
That was super clear to me. So some behind the scenes, I wouldn't call it alpha, but behind the curtains information for folks out there. So every day, every other day, we do this thing called Chemical Burn Watch Party, which is essentially our internal testing process, which everyone gets on a call. We all play the games to beat up the product, to figure out what's working, what's not, and to make quick improvements and iterations on the product. As Matt and Frank have previously mentioned, this dev team, having worked with numerous dev teams in the corporate world in the past, this dev team that we have here at Metafide flips code like I've never seen before in my entire life. Sometimes things that I would expect a week, 2 weeks to get done is pushed out in less than 24 hours. So we have these chemical burn watch parties, and I think I joined about a week after we had initially started this cadence, and I joined up and started playing. And Frank, honestly, I think we got it 90% of the way there right out of the gate. When I started seeing the quick iteration, or the quick interaction, and the methods that people can use to play, putting those bullets or those dots on the screen, and then showing how that user experience then translates quickly into, if you win, a dopamine hit, and if you lose, you're not as happy. But seeing as how quickly that sequence of events was, and how fast paced that game was, I knew we were onto something, and it was just about tweaking the UX to help some of the ancillary, I would say, features of the product. So outside of gameplay, how do we get users on super quickly? How do we reduce the amount of friction between interest and then starting to play the game? How do you extract some of your winnings? How do you fund your wallet a little bit more? But it was really pretty early on when I had realized that not only the game mechanics, but also just the sleek and the sexy UI that we've built over time was really something I had never seen before. And it's to the likes of a lot of the quick products that you see in the market today that captivate people, almost to the likes of a Flappy Bird, if you will. So it was super early on. The team has done an incredible job over the past several months, taking what we had initially built, which was an incredibly strong product, making it stronger, and then ultimately positioning us as a core differentiator in the GameFi or SynthFi space.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a bunch of good points there. Let me see if I can address a few of them. So I first realized, I think, that we were on to something when we were playing those games. It was like right after you joined during the regular cadence. And Matt and I had a meeting set up that we had to go to right after, which needed about half the company on that call. And Matt and I jumped out of the thing in order to get there. And then we sat there for 5 or 6 minutes waiting for everybody to show up, but everybody was stuck to the game because they were having so much fun playing it. And you know how I am about people showing up on time to meetings. But it was one of those things where I actually was like, all right, this is actually a pretty good sign. If people won't show up for this, and we had to remind them, like, hey guys, you got to put the game down, get over here, and start working with it. So that was a really good point of validation when people know there's a cost of showing up late to meetings, and they're still like, oh, I got to be on this game. That was a really good sign. And then uh, you mentioned the part of getting the token, putting it in the game. We did a lot of work around making that sort of low friction. So when we do this launch, getting into the game is going to be way easier. I mean, if anybody's tried to explain to someone else how to do the Web3 bridging tokens, getting them into a game, like flipping them over, setting up a new wallet, saving the seed phrase, like all that stuff, we actually took all that work out so that it's so easy that you literally can explain it to your grandmom and she could do it in a minute with just you sort of like talking her through it. So like that's one of the things. And we wanted to build something for the Web3 space that didn't rely on Web3 internal like inside jokes, inside knowledge, that didn't feel like you're sort of solving a Rubik's cube, on top of a horse as it's galloping. Like we were just like, it can't be that hard because people aren't going to use it. The other thing is when we were going through the games that you bring up, a very good point. We went down the whole rabbit hole of, do we need to build a game with lore and backstory and all these character developments and all the things that people say you need for a game? And we took a long, deep pause, thought for ourselves, and looked at each other and were like, no, that's fucking dumb. That's stupid. We're not going to do that. Like we wanted something that you could just understand and would be really interesting. So like you said, Flappy Bird, you just get it. Wordle, you just get it. Dots, Angry Birds, like you could just play those games. And I was involved in the building of the Draw Something product back in 2012. I think if you guys remember, some of you might remember that game. And I went in sort of as an early CTO advisor and helped my friend Dan Porter, who was the CEO of the company, build the tech team and get he had a really good CTO, the guy that became CTO there, get everybody on the right path, start to scale it. But Draw Something was the biggest mobile game at the time. And everybody was operating off of the same principle. Like, you should be able to understand and explain this game in a few seconds. And Matt and I and Peyton and Big Worm locked ourselves in a room in Charleston when we planned this out. And the rule was, if you can't understand what you got to do in 8 seconds or less, trash the concept and move on. And we sat there and sketched it out, and then we went and built it. I'm sure you remember that, Matt, right?
Oh yeah, I remember that time.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the biggest power hours for the company, or I guess like several hours. We were staying up all night, locking ourselves away, making all the changes that we did, and we manifested all that we said that day into what we have now.
Yeah, and it was great. And that was some of the most fun I had. Obviously, it was a lot of work, but when you look back at what we got out of it, I think it was totally worth it. So, just want to say thanks for everybody that's been through it. So that leads us to now we're sort of wrapping up. I don't want to go too far over, and I want to thank Frank for joining us. But this is not the end. This is actually, we did all this work to bring it here, and now the plan is to with the smoothness that we built into the game and the way we've gotten to onboard is the same way we want to bring it into the market. We want to make it feel good to get it and for you to share it. And we want the people here that are listening and interacting with it during this period, there has to be value in it for you to tell people about it. So we have incentives and ways to reward you. We built a reward mechanism into the product that lets you, for everybody you invite, share in the upside that they create, both daily and monthly. So there's a reason for you to stay involved, to sort of do it. And what we get out of it as a group is the crypto and asset markets improve because you're doing it. And you could look back at the end of this and be like, yeah, I took part in that project. I played in that game, like, or those set of games. And what I helped do was I put this signal out there that became part of this bigger downstream effect that improved capital markets and protected people. So I'm having fun improving the world, which is the sort of the ethos that drives Metafide. We should have fun improving the world, and we're going to do it together. And we're going to do it with people here that are listening to us. So I'm going to put a pin in it there and say thanks. Appreciate you, Frank, for making this one, man. We couldn't have got here without you. And Frank's contributions to the company have been severely underrated. And I just want to be like, let everybody know that we owe a lot to sort of Frank putting some things on his back and carrying him early on the company's path. So, thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate having you here.
Thanks for the kind words. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's have him back. So everybody,
let's go.
We'll make sure you follow us on the Discord, discord.gg/FIDE-token. Follow us on Twitter or X at FIDE_AI, and follow us on YouTube at Metafide. Join us there. We're going to be dropping a bunch of stuff over the coming weeks that's going to translate to real value that you're going to be able to use in the game and beyond. And it's going to translate to real world value fairly quickly. So follow us there. Tell your friends about it, the ones that you like. We don't need a bunch of nonsense people around the project. So if you have good people, tell them about us, because we want them involved and we want to help them help us early and work on this together. So thank you, everybody. Have a good week until Thursday, and we'll see you then.
Take care, guys. Metafide is the only AI-powered Bitcoin prediction game where traders compete in real time to forecast BTC's price in a fast 1 to 5 minute round. Test your skills against global players. Take on 1x risk with the ability to win multiplied payouts and prize pots. The more accurate and early, the better the outcome. Pre-register now for early access to generational wealth.